Okay guys, so now we're going to start talking about multiplicative relationships. So hopefully you finished your additive already, and now you're on to multiplicative. So this is the same idea that we just did with additive, except now instead of doing x plus a, we're now doing our rule times whatever number we had, or whatever our input is going to be. So let's go ahead and start off by writing in what multiplicative relationship actually is. So we're going to write each product is found by multiplying the same number by a factor. Each product is found by multiplying the same number by a factor. If you don't know what factor is, we need to go look that up. So that's going to look like y is equal to ax. Okay. And so to start off, let's go ahead and label out what that actually is. So our y value, that is going to be our product, because as you know, you take a factor, you take two factors, you multiply them together, and it will give you a product. If you take one number times another number, it will give you a product. Okay, so that's why that's here, because we're taking a and multiplying it by x. Okay, and our factor is going to be our x here. That's whatever number, like I said, that you're getting from your input, and as we know, our input can be different. It's the output that relies on whatever that rule is, which is a here. I want to do that in a different color. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start up here. We're going to write out the 4 different ways that we can describe or look at a multiplicative relationship. So that's going to be verbally again, symbolically, numerically, sorry, it's hard to see, okay, and graphically. All right, perfect. Okay, so verbally, that's, like I said from the last video, that is how we are going to say that verbally or read it, or how it's going to be expressed in words. So if we have y is equal to ax, let's use the example with 3. So I'm going to write that right here. Y is equal to 3x, which really, if y'all remember, this is symbolically. So let's go ahead and put that here. Y is equal to 3x. So again, this a or 3, that's the rule that's happening. This is my rule. So thinking about that in terms of how it's going to be expressed when you read, or how you're going to say it. Y is 3 times the value that x is, because you're going to be multiplying it by 3. So let's write that in. Y is 3 times, as you know, times means to multiply, or you know, to get a product. So y is 3 times the value of x. Okay? So we've got verbally, symbolically. Let's look at numerically. Let's use the example, well, we have to go back and we have to do our table first, so let's do that. Really quickly, let's label out our x's input. I think it's really good to label your stuff. I like to do that a lot because it helps me understand what goes where. And then just know that right here in the middle is where that rule is going to take place, so where we are going to be multiplying it by 3. So I'm going to write that in. And I'll just switch colors so we can kind of see the difference. Let's see. Okay. So once again, I'm just going to write in 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just for the sake of an example. Like I said, you could put any input there because you kind of have control over what that is. Unless it graphs it for you already, then you have to go off what it's already given you. But okay, so let's do this. 0 times 3, what does that give you? You should know that anything multiplied by 0 gives you a 0. 1 times 3 gives me 3. 2 times 3, 6. 3 times 3, 9. 4 times 3, 12. So if you don't know your multiplication tables, this is a great spot to stop, go look at a multiplication table, practice that, and that way you have a better understanding of how to do this. Okay, so now that we have our table finished, we need to go do this numerically portion. So let's say that we're going to use 1. And again, this I'm just pulling it out as an example. If x is equal to 1, then what is my y going to be? So y would end up being 3 is equal to our x, well, our output really, I'm sorry, not our output, but in this case it was our 3 here. That was our rule, remember? Our rule, and then the x value, which was 3. Ooh, what did I do there? I messed that up. I'm so sorry. If x is equal to 1, I apologize. If I am looking, let's try that again. If x is equal to 1, so I need to make sure that my x here is going to be 1. And then my rule, which is 3 here, so what I'm pointing to, my rule is 3. And then my outcome, my output, is 3 here. Okay? So let me just color code that so we don't get too confused. So my output here for y, you know we had y here, is equal to ax. That would be green, yes, times 3, which was my rule, which is what I wrote right here, times 3. And then the x, you know, that came out of here, x is 1. Okay, so numerically expressing that, if x is equal to 1, and I have a rule of 3, and I multiply those together, 3 times 1 is going to give me 3. That's all that's saying. Okay? Let's move back and go to graphically. So this, again, is where we're going to graph our numbers. So we're going to need to look down here in order to know what to put up here. So if you need to, you can most definitely write off on the side the coordinate points like we had done over here. So I think that would be a great idea, so let's do that. So that would be 0, 0. Do not get confused by having your rule in the middle there. Okay, it's a 1 on the outsides. Let's see, 1, 3, 2, 6, 3, 9, and 4, 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph our x value. So on our x coordinates, I'm going to do that in purple. So again, we have 0 to 4. This will easily fit on here. So we need to make sure we always start at the 0 and then move over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're not going to really skip those numbers unless you're going to do what we're about to do here, and you're going to increase them by the same amount every time because it's got to be equal. Otherwise it won't work like you need it to. So we have to space this out in order, because we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tick marks, but we have 12 points that we need, or 12 values that we have to show. In order to get 12 in there, we need to think about how we could space that out. So I know that a close number to 12 is going to be around 15. So I also know that with 15, if I space it out and take 15 and divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going to give me 3. So I could space this by, instead of doing 1 here, I could do a 3 and jump 3 and jump 3 and jump 3 and 3. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to start at 0 because my x right here, you see that, starts at 0, and then I'm going to go up the y-axis. I want to have a 3 here, not a 1. 3, because we're spacing it evenly. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Again, this one is going to stop a little short of what I've done, but at least I'm going to be able to graph all of my coordinates on here. Okay, so let's start off with 0, 0. We put a point. Looky there. It's going through the origin. Multiplicative goes through the origin. Okay, so we start here, and then 1, 3. Go to 1, find 3. So we jumped up. Find 2, and then 6, 3, and then 9, 4, and 12. So it's kind of running into my words, but if you can see, it goes through the origin and all the way up. And then you're going to make your little line. Okay? So, sorry, I got a little messy right there, but it should look good. Okay, so I hope that that helped. The last thing I'm going to do, just like I did down here, I'm just going to go back over what these are. So our x here is our factor. That is where we pull that from our input. Our a is our rule. This is whatever they tell you the rule is, or if you're pulling it out of a question, it would be something along the terms of multiplying by 3 times. So that's how you determine what that rule is. And then your y is your product, because we are taking two numbers and multiplying them together. So I hope that helped. Please make sure, again, you cut out your work and paste it into your notebook. And if you need to, you can cut all of this in order to fit it all. Okay, I hope that helped.